Are we here? Are we live? I can never tell with this thing. Okay, we are live. What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. In today's video, we are live, but for those watching the playback, just wanted y'all to know, but we are going to go ahead and get into this 21-month lock update. We are approaching on the 2-year mark, and I'm super excited about that. But just wanted to check in with y'all and let you know where we are. Like I said, we're 21 months in, almost 2 years into this journey. I have loved it up to this point and just wanted to share with y'all where we are. So, all right, just for some context, I thought it would be good to, let me get a better freeze frame, to start with where we were a year ago at this time. All right, so a year ago would have been 9 months into my lock journey, my braid lock journey. For those who don't know, I am a DIYer. I started my own lock journey. I do not have their braid locks. I don't have a grid pattern. I just finger parted as I went along, and it has worked out for me thus far. My locks are different sizes because I don't have a grid, and because I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to a lot of those things. I didn't want all my locks to be the same size. I didn't want it to look perfection, and I didn't want to have a scalpy look even after I just freshly retied. Right now, I have a fresh retie that I just did a few days ago, not even a week ago, and unless I part my hair, you're not seeing my scalp, and so, like I said, I'm not a fan on myself of the scalpy look, so that's where we are. But yes, let's go ahead and get into a comparison. So this is what we were looking at month 9 in my lock journey, so you can just see the difference. All right, I don't know how much is in the frame because I'm on my phone and I got it facing the back way, so I'll get the best quality pictures. But yes, so the locks, from what I can see, so in this picture, my front locks, so the locks that are right here, were coming to the bottom of my eye, all right? So they're at the bottom of my eye. Now, those same locks are down here, all right? So I would say that's about 2.5 inches of growth. And I know you're thinking like, okay, well, in a year, that's not a lot, but granted, that's a year of interlocking. It's not a year of just straight up, straight down growth. So when people say you have to trust the process and the locking journey is a process, it's a journey, it's not just a destination, it's so true, because I've said this before on my channel, but if you're looking for that instant gratification, unless you get instant locks, and even with instant locks, there's still a time that you have to wait in between when you're waiting for your locks to mature and going through all the stages. So you're not just going to have that instant drop, that instant length. And if you do have a lot of length, a lot of times that length is going to shrink up. All right, so the top locks were there. The locks at the bottom, I had on a collared shirt in this particular video, but they were not touching my collar. I mean, if I did a little Uncle Scrooge or whatever and bent my neck down Uncle Fester, then they would touch my collar, but they just were not on the collar. Whereas you can see now, we do have locks on the collar. You know, they're no longer, as one of the flockers said, they're no longer just flirting with my neck. They have moved on from the relationship with my neck and now are having a secret relationship with my clavicle, with my collarbone right here. All right, so we're having to watch out for that. Got a little bit of some shady business going on right there. All right, but they are growing. It has been a year since this video. Obviously, my hair has been colored since then. Did that myself too. Lifted the color, lightened that up. And yeah, so you can see the difference in length. In terms of the braid pattern disappearing or maturing or whatever you want to call that, I would say that it's really hard to see in this because this is a still of a video, but you can still see the braid pattern. I feel like the braid pattern at this point was a lot more predominant than it is now. The difference is that when my hair was all dark black or dark brown, it wasn't as noticeable from afar, whereas when I have lighter hair, you know, it's easier to see the braid pattern in the lighter portions than if it was all black. You know, it would blend in better. But just like in every update that I've had, My locks are maturing at different paces in different places. The ones in the back, I can't really see them, but every time I've looked in the mirror, the ones in the back, for the most part, are either fully mature, or I don't want to say fully mature, but they don't have that braid pattern look anymore, or you can barely make it out in some. So the ones, like I said, in the back, in the crown area, it's the ones that are in this front area, which is not a surprise just because those are the ones, since they were framing my face, that I braided the tightest. I always encourage people, if you're going to do braid locks, to braid loosely, because you give your hair a better chance at being able to loosen up and swell and expand in order for it to lock, because that's what it needs to do. And so that way, you're not 5 years into your lock journey and looking like Brandy back in the 90s. Y'all remember Brandy? I don't know, maybe there were others that were rocking them that were famous, but I really feel like Brandy is what put micro braids on the map. I don't remember anyone else back then, but I remember Brandy being that person that I could look at and be like, oh, she's got micro braids. Okay. Now, granted, it wasn't her hair, all the way down that was micro braided, but still, I feel like she put micro braids on the map, and kind of popularized them. And so I got me some little Brandy Moesha micro braids, and but they are, like I said, maturing. The ones in the front, I'm not bothered by the braid pattern. I know that some people maybe don't want to have a braid pattern. So if you're trying to decide what type of lock that you want to start with, whether you want to start with interlocks, you want to start with Braidlocs, you want to start with 2-strand twist, or comb coils, each has their benefits, each has their cons, or weak points. So really, at the end of the day, just goes back to you, personal preference, your lifestyle, what works for you, your hair type. If you've got a looser pattern, then trying to do comb coils or maybe even 2-strand twists may not work for you, just because when you go to wash your hair, or if you sweat a lot doing sports or whatnot, then your hair may unravel very easily. Whereas with braids, it's easier to hold that braid in than it is with some others. So those are just some things to keep in mind. And then, yeah, what else has changed? So at 21 months, I can say that the amount of marrying at the roots has dramatically and significantly reduced. The first year of my lock journey, I feel like, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after my retie, I was already having to go through and separate. I'm the type that I wash my hair at least once a week, just because I'm active and I sweat really easily. Even in the wintertime, I still sweat a lot and easily. So, you go in, and right after a wash, like I said, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, I'm having to pop my locks and separate them at the root to keep them from having some serious marrying. Now I'm at 21 months, and I rarely ever have to separate my locks. Now, once I hit week 5, week 6, then I start feeling a little bit like I might have one or two. But I mean, the amount of poppage, those that know when your locks, I mean, I'm talking about before I was having serious marrying to the point where I was like having to go in and, it might be 5 or 6 strands of hair that are intertwining and whatnot. Whereas now I might have 1 or 2 strands that after 6 weeks are starting to try to intertwine. It's real simple for me to pop them. It's not even popping, it's just pulling apart at this point. And I'm not having issues with that anymore. What else has changed? The locks are condensing still. So of course the whole process is, you start out like I started out with braid locks. They started out real slim. And I think something that I said actually, which is interesting, because let me see if I can get the audio up on here. Finally reached the length that they were when I first started my braid locks. All right. What is up, FLocers? That is my... So in this video at 9 months, I said that my locks had finally reached the length that they were when I first started my braid locks. So anyone that knows the whole process when it comes to locking knows that as they mature, they swell and they shrink. And so I had started them at a certain length, and then they kept creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, to the point where it was like, well, dang, I got half the length that I started with. Not that my hair was extremely long, but you just look and you're like, wow, my hair is really shrunken and shriveled up. So at 9 months, I had finally gained back the length that I lost, and it felt like I had gotten back to where I started. Now, as my hair grows, it feels like it's just growing down. And when I look back at pictures, I look back at this, I'm like, wow. To someone else, it may not look like that's a huge difference within a year, because you're like, that's not, but to me, and for those in the lock world, to see how much your hair grows in a year, just think at year 4, 5, 6, how long my hair will be. And even in this past year, my hair has still done a little bit of shrinking. And so as the years go on, it does less shrinking and more just stretching down. So that's exciting. Uh, I don't, I've never had an issue with frizz, so it's not something that I pay a lot of attention to. But like I said, my locks are condensing, and so there's even less frizz than there has been. A lot of maturation of the locks that's been happening. Again, probably because I got a lot of light in this room and because I have lighter ends, you can see that braid pattern pretty predominantly, but when you're in person, you really can't see the braid pattern that much, and unless you're this close to me, which ain't nobody this close to me, just because I like my personal space and I don't need nobody in my face like this. So, you know, it's really not that visible to people. And then I guess, you know, I don't want to just talk about the good, because sometimes people get on these platforms and they only talk about the good, they don't talk about the struggle. So it's not a struggle that started with my lock journey. This is a struggle that I've had for a long time. It's something that is in my family, but just thinning or hair loss in the crown area. And so I've shown this before on my channel, but it's been a while. So I do have right here a thin spot or an almost balding spot, and it doesn't. Hey, Carolyn Shepherd, good to see you, good to see you. But yeah, I do want to be transparent. So I do have, that's my one problem spot where I do have very thin hair. I haven't lost any locks or anything like that. And the surrounding locks, like, it hasn't caused any thinning. So for anyone who's wondering if you have thin hair or you have a bald spot, if that's going to cause your locks in the area to pop off, at least for me, it has not. I still retie these locks around this area every time that I do my retie. I haven't had any thinning, I haven't had any breakage or anything like that. So the Microlocs have not caused an issue. And pretty much what I do is usually I will just kind of do my locks like that. So that way I don't have this spot in my head that's just showing off to where people are like, ooh. And I'm a pretty tall guy, so most people aren't seeing that spot on my head anyways. But yeah, like I said, do just want to be transparent to the fact that I do have that little trouble area. Other than that, though, I don't really have any gripes about my locks. I've loved this journey from the beginning. It's been extremely positive. I don't have anything negative to say about this journey. I would say that it's always always a test of patience when you embark on a lock journey. Even though this is my 5th lock journey, it's never not a test of patience. It's never not a learning experience about yourself. You learn things about yourself that you didn't before. You become more in tune with your hair and things when you're, you know, it's just because of part of the journey. You're, especially when you're a DIYer, you're doing your reties yourself. I make my own hair oil and products that I'm putting in my hair. So I'm very conscious about the things that I'm putting on my hair and my scalp. And so, hey Lydia, how you doing? So yeah, when you're just conscious about those things and whatnot, I don't know. No journey is the same. Every lock journey that I've been on has been different. This is the first micro lock journey that I've been on. I've enjoyed all of my traditional lock journeys. But yeah, I think this one has been the most freeing for me just because I am not concerned about the things I was concerned about with the first 4 journeys. You know, when I had traditional locks, I was worried about them always looking maintained. I was worried about them being frizzy, not looking business professional, trying to always keep up a certain look to please other people so that other people didn't feel uncomfortable. I was always, what else? Yeah, I just, not that I don't care now, because I definitely do care, but I just care about different things. I care about the the health of my scalp, the health of my locks. And yeah, so again, that spot that I have on my scalp, that's not anything that was caused by locking or anything like that. I've had that since I was probably in college. Yeah, it had to do with an outbreak on my scalp that led to inflammation, and I had like almost like boils on my scalp, and so the hair eventually just stopped growing in that area, or it just grows in really thin. Um, but yeah, there's not really much more to say. 21 months in, looking forward to hitting the 2-year mark in a couple more months, and I'll give y'all close-ups again of the whole thing just so you can see. But this is where we're at. I love the ease of them, the quickness, the lack of having to detangle. My wash days take me 10 minutes or less. I let my hair air dry 99% of the time. I think in the past 2 years I blow dried my hair twice, and that was only because it was cold outside and I needed to go somewhere within like 5 minutes of me being out of the shower, and so I didn't have time to let it air dry at all. But every other time I let my hair air dry. Thank you for saying my locks are beautiful. Let my hair air dry. It's one of the perks of Microlocs compared to traditional locks. When I had traditional locks, because they're thicker, they hold the moisture in a lot longer. And so air drying my traditional locks could take hours upon hours. Sometimes it took 2 days for it to dry completely, whereas with these, they're dry in a couple of hours. Usually, like I said, I'll leave my house right after washing my hair, and unless it's freezing outside, I'm not too concerned about being sick or anything like that. So yeah, this is what we're looking like. I'm sorry if I'm not giving the best views because I don't have a viewfinder to see what I'm showing, but this is what we're looking like on the side, in the back. This is what the hair is looking like. Okay. Do your Microlocs ever itch after a retie? Yes, they do. Okay, so that is something I've also struggled with. So yeah, Microlocs, definitely because your scalp is exposed, and especially after a retie or when you first do the installation, if you already have a dry scalp, it's going, it does. It gets very dry. And because I suffer from dry scalp anyways, so yeah, especially after a retie, you know, I'm having to wash my hair probably the next day or 2 days after a retie just because it's itching so much and flaking up. So I do struggle with very dry, itchy scalp after a retie, even after I've moisturized and done that. So typically right after a retie, I'm having to moisturize my hair twice in a week, because typically if it's just a non-retie week where I'm washing my hair, I'll wash it and I'll put oil and some leave-in conditioner, and that's it. And I won't do anything else to my hair for the rest of the week. But right after I finish a retie, excuse me, my scalp is itching and on fire, so I do have to go in. So yeah, I would say for anyone thinking about getting Microlocs or starting a Microloc journey, just know that your scalp probably, for most people, I won't say for everyone, but for most people, you're going to have an extremely itchy scalp. Anytime you get maintenance done, just because your scalp is exposed to the elements. And so, yeah, but it's nothing that can't be prevented. I go in, spray some water, put a little oil on, and I'm pretty good most of the time. So I'm trying to think. I don't know that there are any more updates, just because the further you get into a loc journey, I feel like the less updates you have. That first year, I felt like each month I had something to share and my locks were changing and stuff like that. These days, there's not much change. I don't get the balls on the ends of my locks very much anymore. Every now and then there will be one that, you know, the little balls that fall off eventually or lock into the bottom. But I feel like most of them have, this is one right here, I think. So yeah, I do still have a couple, but for the most part, they've all already had that and they've fallen off. Let me see, what'd you say, Lydia? What do you use to make the itching stop? So I use two things. I have my DIY oil that I make. So I'll use that on my scalp. But something that honestly, even in the interim, because I don't like weighing down my hair, I don't want to put oil on my scalp every day or on my locks. I try to use it once a week. And so what I use in between when I have really itchy scalp, and I don't have it with me today, but it's from the, what is it? Head and Shoulders Royal Oils line. It's the Scalp Elixir, and it comes in a bottle that's like this big. And the whole Royal Oil lines, the way that you can tell is because the bottles are blue, this like really pretty blue, and then the tops of all the bottles are this golden color. And it's supposedly made for people of color, with people with textured hair, curly, kinky hair. And I swear by that line. I don't know for other people. I've known some loose natural people on YouTube who also swear by it. So I know it works for a lot of people. It definitely works for me. I use their shampoo, their conditioner, and then I also, like I said, use the elixir. But it's called the Scalp Elixir. And I get all my stuff on Amazon because half the time when I go to the store, I can't find it in the store. I live in an area where the stores don't cater to melanated people because there aren't a ton of us up here. And so, yeah, I end up shopping on Amazon most of the time. That way I can ensure that I get the stuff that I need. But yeah, the Scalp Elixir, it comes in a small bottle, but it lasts for a very long time. And what you do is you just go through, and in areas where it's either itching or you know it's going to itch, you just spray a couple of sprays in there, and yeah, spray it through, and then you go in and give yourself a little scalp massage. And because it has menthol and other things, I don't know, I can't remember if it's tea tree or eucalyptus, but it's got different menthol oils and stuff in it. And so it warms up your scalp. And I know maybe part of that is just a placebo effect and not anything that you actually need, but it feels like it's doing something. So yeah, you get that warm, cooling sensation on your scalp, and it honestly does work. It keeps my scalp from itching for the whole day, and it smells amazing. If you've ever used Head and Shoulder products, it has that Head and Shoulders smell to it that smells really great, and it's not heavy. It doesn't have buildup or anything like that. So I'll make sure to put the link for the elixir thing in the description box for the replay for anyone who's watching on replay. But yeah. But other than that, I know some people have been in and out, but if anyone has any other questions, I will try to address those now. But if not, I don't want to make this too long of a video. You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for engaging and for asking. All right, y'all. Well, that is my 21-month lock update. I've got a lot more content that is coming in the near future, things that I'm excited about. Just looking forward to it. Like I said, anyone that already has Microlocs knows the amount of freedom and time that you get back from having your locks, you know, the several hours that you spend during your maintenance once every 5 or 6 weeks or 8 weeks is nothing compared to the amount of time that you used to have to spend when you were doing your hair. So there really is true hair freedom. I know people say it's the best decision of my life and the only regret I have is not starting sooner. It's so true, because you get more time back, whether it's time to yourself or time for your family, time for your friends, just whatever it is, not having to cancel plans because your hair is wet or you got leave-in conditioner or whatever in your hair. So there's just so many benefits to Microlocs. And I plan on growing mine out and keeping mine until, unless this balding spot grows and gets larger, I plan to keep them in. Looking forward to seeing what I look like one day with gray locks. So we'll see. But anyways, I thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you around for other videos. Hope you're having a blessed day. Bye.